Hi, I'm really excited to be with you today to share the annual report on philanthropy for the year 2020. It has just been released, and we're really excited to be sharing some of the key takeaways from the report with you today. This report, Giving USA 2021, reflects trends of total giving, economic trends, and trends in giving by source and recipient. This is the oldest and most comprehensive report on charitable giving in the United States, started by the American Association of Fundraising Council in 1956, which is now the Giving Institute. Published by the Giving USA Foundation, which is part of the Giving Institute, comprised of national firms such as the Alfred Group. Our firm has been a member of the Institute and a significant donor to the research that has reflected in this report for over 30 years. This report is researched and written by the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy and made possible by contributions from the Giving Institute member firms, foundations, and other donors. Well, the big news is that charitable giving reached an all-time high with $471.44 billion in charitable giving in the United States in 2020. This is up by 5.1% over around $450 billion in 2019, and an increase of 3.8% in inflation-adjusted dollars. First, I want to talk with you about the sources of contributions. Giving by individuals comprised 69% of total giving in 2020. Giving by foundations, which includes grants made by independent, community, and operating foundations, amounted to about 19% of all gifts made in 2020, and giving by bequests accounted for 9% of all gifts made in 2020. One thing to keep in mind is that giving to foundations actually includes about half from families. So if you take into account all charitable giving by individuals, it amounts to about 88% of all giving coming from people. This is why we focus on individual giving, individual philanthropy in all of our work, in all of our fundraising. Additionally, giving by corporations comprised 4% of total giving in 2020, and this includes cash gifts as well as in-kind contributions made through corporate giving programs, as well as grants and gifts made by corporate foundations. Next, let's look at recipients. 2020 recipients of the contributions. Well, religion continues to receive the largest share of charitable dollars, as it did in 2020, and that's 28% of total giving. The education subsector comprised the second largest portion of charitable dollars in 2020, receiving 15% of total gifts. And human services now came in third in total gifts received at 14% of charitable dollars. This is an increase of 9.7% from 2019. And of course, much of that is pandemic related. Giving to grant-making foundations, including independent, community, and operating foundations, comprised the fourth largest share of charitable dollars, amounting to 12% of total giving. And comprising the fifth largest portion of charitable gifts, public society benefit organizations receive 10% of total giving. And this is actually an increase in 2020 by 15.7%. The health subsector now is in sixth place, receiving 9% of charitable dollars in 2020, and it saw a decrease in 2020 by about 3% over 2019. International affairs ranked seventh, amounting to about 5%, and arts, culture, and humanities received the eighth largest portion of charitable gifts at 4% of giving. This is a decrease of 7.5% over the previous year. Comprising the ninth largest share of gifts in 2020, environment animals subsector received 3%. And finally, gifts made directly to individuals amounted to about 3% in 2020. So if we look at how the 9 subsectors performed in 2020, giving to 7 of the 9 subsectors grew, and giving grew by more than 8% for 5 of those subsectors: education, human services, public society benefit, international affairs, and environment. The 2-year growth was positive for all 9 subsectors, despite the dips experienced in health and arts over the last year. And of course, giving to the arts and culture was impacted by the shutdowns over this past year and the inability to host in-person events. So this is a teaser. We will be back to report in more detail at a later date. Thank you for joining us today, and please stay tuned for a deeper dive into this report and what it means for your organization and the philanthropic space moving forward. Thanks for being here.